It was eerily quiet for that short amount of time that I think most of us were still processing this really happening. The floodgates just opened with everything coming in.
Things were so different that at that point we were still all kind of fighting for reservations, and it wasn't just this infiltration of so much demand, but companies are really trying to think about, okay, what are some things that I can do besides just dropping rate to get guests?
At the end of the day, if you have two products that are very similar to each other, they have the same number of bedrooms, they have all of the same amenities, and they're really the same price, this is a value add that sits on top of that.
I used to be in property management in Panama City Beach, and when I remember every January having to go around to every business and every attraction and every restaurant and make deals for our group. Oh my gosh, the amount of work that has to go in to be able to do it and then coordinate tickets and make sure you got them at the front desk and all the things. That's where what you guys do, it makes everything streamlined so they can access these things better.
We'll start the show in just a minute, but first, a word from our premier brand sponsor.
I'm Arlen Buznitz with Destined Dreamers. I'm the CEO. We've been working with Xplorie now 2 years. Before Xplorie, the guests, if they wanted extra experiences outside the house, they had to go pay for it. With Xplorie, now we're offering free tickets, and guests can come in knowing that they have many free activities without having to pay additional. We started with Xplorie because we wanted to enhance the guest experience, give us a competitive advantage in the area, and also cause more people to book. When a guest books with us, they have the opportunity to experience 10 plus different activities through Xplorie. We're talking golf, parasailing, snorkeling, dolphin cruises, miniature golf, water park, tiki cruise to Crab Island, all that. So it's quite a good value that the guest gets. Our brand is that we are more than a stay, and this helps us solidify that because yes, the guests get all these free experiences. What's helped with Xplorie is it does show up in the reviews, and then also it's really helped our sales team. When people are trying to decide between houses, it gives us another little extra shove to push them towards going with us versus another company. In our county, there's over 7,000 vacation rentals. Many options, so you have to be distinct. Xplorie has been great to work with. When you're dealing at the volume we deal with, there's gonna be issues that pop up once in a while. And I know and have experienced that they're easily resolved, and they're very receptive to ideas too, because in this fast moving vacation rental world, there's always ways to update systems, and Xplorie is very good at updating, upgrading, and making sure that guests and us have a great experience. I'll be asked, do I recommend Xplorie? If it is somebody who's outside our market, I say yes. If it's somebody who's inside our market, I say no, because I don't want the competition. The reason I recommend Xplorie is because it is a simple, easy, inexpensive way to enhance the guest experience. And just for that small fee per night, we are able to provide incredible benefits to the guests.
Looking to take your guest experience to the next level? Xplorie helps you stand out by connecting guests to curated, complimentary local activities. And now, Alex and Annie listeners get free onboarding when you join as a new partner. This exclusive offer is valid through November 30th, 2025. Click the link in the description to get started today.
Welcome to Alex and Annie, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are joined today by Adrienne Clark and Caleb Yaryan, who are with Xplorie. It's so good to see you guys today.
Likewise, good to see you. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've been wanting to have you guys on for a while, and we're super excited that you guys are sponsoring the show. So first of all, thank you for that. We love our sponsors, and we love to be able to collaborate and interview them and learn more about their business. But before we dig into Xplorie, why don't you each tell us a little bit about your background within, I guess, what brought you to Xplorie, but maybe, your background in hospitality and travel.
So mine is kind of a career path that unfolded unexpectedly. Came back after college to Destin. My husband was born and raised here. I didn't know anybody. It was spring break in the Panhandle. And at the time, the founder of Xplorie, formerly ASI, was hiring for the spring and was like, it would be a good way to learn the area. So it was a way to help out, and definitely not a planned thing as an economics major, and it turned into a great career. I love hospitality. I love being a resident in a tourist area that actually gets to see the positive of all the tourism, connecting lodging and activity providers together. So just kind of one project and task turned into a lot of project and tasks later. And so here we are now, and just, now each chapter seems to be better than the last one. So it just kind of stayed and became a long career here. That's been very rewarding.
That's great. And
Awesome.
Caleb?
Yeah, so a little bit different path. I come from a technology background, so I've owned a couple of technology companies. One of them was in the tours and attraction space, which is how I was originally introduced to these guys. And then I've spent some time overseeing development at other companies. But really, about 3.5 years ago, was introduced to Xplorie through a mutual friend, and wasn't at the time actually looking for a job. I was traveling full time with my family. I just sold our house, and I'm like, now's not the time to look for a new job. But met with the team and really fell in love with the business model. As far as I've been in a lot of places that either have a really good product and struggle with marketing, or really great marketing and not a great product. And this was a good mix of just everybody gets something out of it. There's a good value proposition for everybody, and it's a good product I can feel good about. So just fell in love with that in the group of people, and so joined just over 3.5 years ago.
Awesome. Well, and for anybody who's not familiar with Xplorie, maybe just give our listeners a little kind of glimpse as to what the program is.
So we work in leisure vacation markets and connect local tours, activities, attractions to short stay lodging units. So as you come and stay in these units, you might be coming, for example, I'm in Destin, coming to Destin for the beach, but we all know there's lots of other great activities you're going to do outside of the beach: fishing, dolphin cruises, golf, aquariums. And so we put together the packages for the lodging providers to be able to offer free tickets to their guests for a value add for their unit. If you come and stay, and you can go do all these great local attractions in your area, and you get free tickets to go and do so. So it's a great way to differentiate your property, add value to your property. For the guests, it's a great way to help, even figure out which of the 10 dolphin cruises am I going to go to, because we do, it's local, curated, what's the best of the best, the whole, travel like a local, where should we go? And then it gives them the benefit of, if it rains, like you guys saw in Charleston last week or whatever, you have one place to call and modify all your reservations versus having to spend your time on vacation calling, each individual activity to change plans. So it's just grown over the years now across all of the U.S. So what started just here in Destin is just spread throughout the U.S. in different leisure markets.
So I used to be in property management in Panama City Beach. And I remember every January having to go around to every business and every attraction and every restaurant and make deals for our group. And it was fun because I had great relationships with people, but oh my gosh, the amount of work that has to go in to be able to do it, and then coordinate tickets and make sure you got them at the front desk and all the things. I mean, I think that's where what you guys do, it removes some of that work that some managers were doing in other markets, but it makes everything streamlined so they can access these things better. I wanted to, I know just the Panama City Beach market, there's so many things there, and Destin's somewhat similar. And I think, in Alex and Myrtle Beach, but how many markets are you guys in? And then what does it look like for you to be able to go and create these relationships within each market so you can access the tickets and attractions for the managers?
Yeah, so I think currently it's a little over 70 destinations in the U.S. And I think it depends on how you count them out. Like, we can say Emerald Coast is one, or we count it as Destin and Panama City Beach, but it's basically 70 leisure markets across the U.S. And that encompasses about 1,400 plus or minus activity provider partners. As far as going into those markets, just like, lodging companies, you have some activity partners, everyone from mom and pop owned businesses to corporate companies that own attractions across multiple locations. So really, we use the lodging providers, and a lot of lodging providers, like you said, have always been doing some sort of connecting of activities or things to do pages on your website, because guests always ask them, what do I go and do when I'm in town? Where is the best so-and-so to go? Where should I go eat at? So we kind of start there in a brand new market of what is the thing. If I Google going to XYZ destination outside of the beach, mountains, whatever geography might be there, what is the main attractions that people want to go and do? And then We have a team that goes in and builds those relationships with those activity providers. So again, the activity providers are just as important to us as the lodging providers. And it's kind of the chicken or the egg, which comes first. Do you get lodging first and then activities, or activities then lodging? I think that's still to be decided in a market, and everyone has a different feel of which is first, but they're both equally important to the success. As Caleb says, it's everyone gets something out of it. So deciding what that is and who is just a lot of conversations and partnerships of, for the activity providers, is there a business need they're trying to solve, or a group of people they're trying to reach? And then obviously with the lodging providers, what's the best value that we can help them provide to their guests to help get bookings? Because if they get the bookings and the guests are in town and we'll go do the activities, and it'll be a win all the way around.
And I really think that's an important distinction for us, is the relationships we do have with all the activity providers, because they're not just people that we're listing their products with. So we have those ongoing relationships. Most of them, we have direct integrations to their software that they're selling from. So we have real-time availability. We're able to book through their systems. But it's important to us that we're sending your guests to these activities that we know them. We have relationships with them. We know the quality that they're providing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, Adrienne, one of the points you touched on of, do guests book attractions first or accommodations first? And I know in one case in particular, I'm in the Myrtle Beach market, and for sure, guests traditionally book golf before they book the accommodations. So, I mean, like if they're coming here for a golf trip, they're coming here, for a specific reason, and they want to make sure they can get the courses and the tee times. And to be honest, golfers, they actually don't really care about where the heck they stay. They just want to make sure that it's a good location to the courses, and then whether we're going to go out and have fun. And I'm sure in every market by different attractions, it kind of varies. But at the end of the day, you don't want to go somewhere that there's nothing to do. I mean, I think everybody at some point in your travel journey, you're looking for accommodations, but you also want to make sure when you get there, especially if you're traveling with family, that there's enough stuff to do. And was also just thinking from the marketing perspective, I think Xplorie plays a good role here, that if you're trying to get your website to rank and to be a site that people, stay on, for a longer duration, and that people keep coming back to, and they see you as the expert within that location, you have to be writing content about what to do. And the nice tie-in here is, if you're just writing about content about what to do and you have no relationship with the vendors that you're promoting for free, that you're doing it to get, more SEO value for your site. But in this case, I've seen some of your partners that they write a lot of content about the attractions that are part of their program, which makes a lot of sense, because it's like, now you can use that content not only in your website, but you can push that out through emails and social. So it adds another arm or advantage to, being able to push other things than just accommodations.
Yeah. And also, to be good, it's all about hospitality. So we need to make sure that those lodging providers and activity providers, in particular the activity providers, provide that same level of hospitality that the guests are going to get from the lodging provider. Because at the end of the day, these aren't Xplorie's guests. These are the lodging provider's guests. And we want to make sure that when they go to these activities, they are treated the same way they got treated, at check-in by their lodging provider and by their host. So again, that hospitality experience, and just making that, keeping that front in mind and top of mind at all times, helps with that. That way, to your point, Alex, if they are booking ahead of their lodging, during their lodging, their plans change. If it's, 4th of July in Panama City Beach, you're going to be booking your stuff well in advance of your arrival because it's busy, versus if you just show up in November, you can, do it as the day comes. Okay, today I want to go golfing. Tomorrow I want to go do something different. And then we can level set those hospitality expectations for the guests really well.
I want to lean into something else you said, and that's the marketing side of it. One of the things that we do, and I've felt strongly about this, is if I book something, that even with my family, the first thing I do is what do we want to do? Where do we want to go, and what are the events that we want to do? And we see universally across the board that people are booking their activities very close to when they're booking the lodging. And so it's a big part of why they're going to these markets to begin with. And so when we sit down with our partners and we look at, hey, this season, these are the things people are going to, this is actually when they're booking, so we can help inform their marketing when they're reaching out to people the next season, of saying, hey, we see that skis start booking at this time, and so they can market specifically to those. Or if they're struggling in the shoulder season, we're able to come in and say, hey, here's ways that we could leverage these activities beyond just the activity itself. But again, this is the reason they're coming to market. How do we help you with your marketing to leverage that?
With COVID, I'm curious. So, I mean, because Xplorie has been around for a long time, and I know obviously in the Panhandle, how did you guys handle handle that? Because there was a time period in which like people couldn't access activities, or there was only certain activities. So, like maybe some of those relationships that you had in place. I mean, that had to have been pretty hard to manage, especially in multiple markets, to know at a moment's notice like which ones were actually open and which ones weren't. So how did you guys navigate that? And then like kind of moving forward, what are you seeing in terms of what people are looking for? Because I think that one thing that COVID taught us is that people want to be outdoors. There's more outdoor activities that people are seeking. So have you seen a trend to move away from like the inside attractions and more outdoor attractions? Or like, what kind of trends are you seeing? So I guess, twofold question. How did you handle the COVID issue? And then what did that look like coming post-COVID in terms of what people actually were wanting and what they want now?
So, like everyone else, it was like drinking from a water hose because it was eerily quiet for that short amount of time that I think most of us were still processing. Is this really happening? And not coming in to work and not having anybody here to when, especially Florida opened, the floodgates just opened with everything coming in. So I think it took a lot of people and a lot of teams, and we all wore different hats. There was definitely no titles in Xplorie. We were all guest service agents answering phones. And then if you weren't answering phones for guests, you were helping manage the activity providers and, their relationships, and schedules and what's open, what's not open. Some people, like you said, they were so busy being outdoors, there was never availability. So it's just setting that right expectation and the communication. But luckily, we do have a lot of integrations with some of them. So we knew that real time and we could replace an activity if, one was not available, what's a like activity to replace it with. I think that was one advantage of having all of these relationships for so many years. In most markets, unless there are just a few things, there's multiple of each category of activity. So there might be a primary one and we can replace it with other ones. So we did that, but we all wore different hats. So we were all, especially in the mornings when guests tended to call, even 30 years later, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. is still our busiest time on the phones. We were all answering those phone calls. And then if you weren't answering and speaking with guests, you were on the phones with activity providers getting the most up-to-date schedule. And then they took advantage of it. If they had room to add capacity in any way, shape, or form, they did, because I think they saw the opportunity to let's capture this while we can.
Interesting. And, we were talking before we hit play here that back in 2019, before COVID, things were so different that, at that point we were still all kind of fighting for reservations, and it wasn't just this infiltration of so much demand, but things have obviously leveled out at this point, and companies are really trying to think about, okay, what are some things that I can do besides just dropping rate to get guests in the door, and not only just for one time, but how are they going to stay with me and remember that experience, that they'll remember to come back again. But maybe tell us just a little bit about kind of Xplorie's philosophy on how offering this to their guests helps them differentiate within the market that's now more crowded and competitive than ever.
Yeah, and I can jump in and kind of also dovetail on the last conversation around, what has changed post COVID and how does that relate to what we're seeing going forward, and then how do we strategize on that? So I always think, oh, there's some pattern we can see here, and then you start to drill down and it's like, nope, that's not that. So it's really hard and difficult to see. The short answer is, how have things changed? Because it's a very, very, very hyper local. So something that's on the beach at Myrtle Beach where you are, people are going frequently. They're spending a significant time on the beach, and then or golf, like the purpose of their trip. So indoor versus outdoor hasn't changed so much, but weather and destination and seasonality, it's very cyclical in that, and we see pretty consistently that the changes that happen are typically weather based. So we'll see people go inside it's raining, but that's a last minute decision. So as they're booking out, they're almost always, outdoor activities are definitely their predominant ones still. As far as how we're leveraging it, I again, back to what I love about our product is at the end of the day, if you have two products that are very similar to each other, they have the same number of bedrooms, they have all of the same amenities, and they're really the same price. This is a value add that sits on top of that. And so as a consumer, and we see this frequently, Myrtle Beach is a great example of this, that sometimes the included activities are the difference between a family being able to do an activity or not being able to do an activity. So, as budgets are obviously tight for everybody, if they go to Myrtle Beach and they want to take their family out to a dinner show, it's a significant investment. And so when we look at utilization of the activities, it's not infrequent that the activity usage is close to the cost or exceeding the cost of lodging. And so it's a big part of, when I travel, again, food, I love food. So I look at where am I going to eat, and then what am I going to do, and where am I going to stay? And if we can simplify that process for people, both financially, but also in the booking process, it really allows people to enjoy more on their vacation. And they tie that back to the lodging provider because they're providing it. So now this isn't something that was, purchased. It was included in their stay, and they really view that as a huge benefit. So it brings loyalty as well to people booking in the same places.
Well, actually, Alex and I went to Italy last fall, and I got hooked on the Viator app to do my activities, and have used it in other destinations. And I was curious, do you guys have a similar app? Because if you do, I apologize, I don't know about that. Is that something that you're going to do? Or because you only book through the managers, they wouldn't actually book? Okay.
Yeah, so we do have a web platform that people can book in, but we're not an open marketplace. So one of the things that separates us and why we're able to sell some of the tickets we have, so twofold. One, we're in leisure market. So Viator is typically heavily in high tourist destinations, but not always leisure market. So as you go down into a leisure market, the scale of the operations that are there are smaller. And so typically they're not listing on a Viator. And then the fulfillment of that is the kind of difficult part there because there's no technology to tie into. So it's a very highly manual, hey, today I have this much availability. And so we do provide a system that allows our activity partners to do that. But one of the reasons that we're able to offer a lot of the activities is because we're not offering them just to the public. Like you have to be a guest of these properties in order to get these activities. Not anybody can log in and get them. And really, our primary emphasis is not around selling the activities. It's really about the complementary activities bundled with the stay. And so it's not viewed as competitive to the local attractions because in a lot of these small towns, they have a captive market. They don't need someone else selling it. They don't want to list on a Viator. They don't want to list on a third-party marketplace because they have limited inventory. And so with us, the reason that they do like working with us is A, we're not available. You can't buy outside of the ecosystem. And then B, we give them an opportunity to get their product in front of guests before they're ever in market, which is something that they struggle with. And so those two things together kind of are unique, but it's why we'll never have, I shouldn't say never, but we will very likely not have an app that's consumer facing because that's just not our model. We're really not trying to sell more tickets. We're trying to leverage the activities to partner with the lodging providers.
I have to share a little bit of a horror story. So speaking about Italy, when,
I was born there, so hopefully it's not too bad.
no, not with you guys, but when we were in Italy last year, Annie was much more organized going into the trip that she had all of her plans at each destination already mapped out, and we did not. And so we were just one day we got into Tuscany and wanted to do some sort of a wine tasting tour, and I found this horseback riding wine tasting tour on Viator, and I thought, I mean, the pictures looked great. By the pictures, it said we were riding horses to different places to drink wine, which riding horses and drinking wine are two of my favorite things in the world. So I booked it immediately. But it was on a Saturday, and we were going to do it on Sunday. And I got an email from them that it made it seem like they were kind of caught off guard that they weren't planning to have any bookings for that day, even though it was active on the platform. And I thought, okay, well, it should be fine. It was not fine. It was literally the opposite of what those pictures showed, that it was this gorgeous vineyard, but they took us, I think they just had to find some horses that they could put us on, and they took us like 20 minutes away. The horses were not clean. I mean, they hadn't been groomed or brushed, and it was like a really, really not run down. I mean, the horses, they were taken care of, but it was just not at all what the pictures made it seem. And I was so disappointed afterwards that I tried to write back on Viator. I tried to call them. I couldn't get in touch for, days after we got back from Italy. And finally they got back and they refunded it. But it was a nightmare. And I think that's one advantage to have you guys have a call center, that it's like if something goes wrong, or if guests have to, change their plans, they can actually reach out to somebody and like get good service. Like you said, Adrienne, that it's like the same level of service as if they were checking in at the property, that they've got somebody that's there to help.
And same with the activities, knowing that the activity, we've vetted this activity, made sure it's something you would take your family on, because the last
Yeah.
imagine if that was one of our clients. We might hear from you, but you know who we're also going to hear from is we're going to hear from that lodging provider that's like, hey, why did you send our guests? They just booked to stay with us, and now their experience is this terrible horseback riding, not to a linear experience. So that is why, that is one thing, going back to Annie's question about post-COVID, there was a lot of people that became lodging providers that may or may not need to be in the lodging provider business, but there was a lot of people that started to open a tour boat company or some sort of business, and they don't need to be in the activity business, or it wasn't, what it said to be. So it's important for us and our team that the activities, they're vetted, that we, one of our team members have done them, been there, experienced it, give them any of that feedback. So it's really important. Just like for lodging providers, they want those 5-star reviews from guests. We want to make sure our activities, that the guests are having those 5-star reviews and it's the right experience. They have the right capacity, the right attitude, because again, we all know, guests are here on vacation and guests are always right. So we need to make sure they're, treated that way through the whole experience. And yeah, the call center is important to us. Self-serve platform was something Caleb and his team over the last couple of years we've worked on. And that came from years of people being like, I would love to, when we get done dinner, we finally decided what time we want to go on that dolphin cruise, but now your call center's closed. So for years we've heard we would love the ability to be able to book on our own, which is what Caleb and his team, finally we delivered to everybody. But the call center will always be the heart of our company as far as somebody being able to reach out. They still get, lost even this day and age. Like, where do I park? I'm running late. I need to make this, change in plans, or they just want information. It's amazing how many calls are still just information, that people want to talk to someone and ask the questions. And we want to always have that available for them to be able to talk to. And then a lot of reservations change. The last time we pulled it, we just pulled one category, and Caleb, help me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's like 22% of all reservations on activities have a modification. So either they're adding something to it, taking somebody off, changing time, updating something or another. So it's a lot. It's not just here's your ticket and we're done with it and we move on. We're here for that entire time. And those modifications could be weeks ahead of their stay or all the way up until the day of the event.
We'll be back in just a minute. But first, a word from our premier brand sponsor, Track.
Hi, my name is Kara and I own Vacation Your Way. Previous to Track, I was using Excel for all my reservations, but it was exhausting. It would take me 15 days to go through and reconcile all of the work in my Excel sheets and then write them up into these Word documents. And since I got Track, and I was like, they do owner reporting. Like, I love the owner reports. It is so fun just to boom, it's already there. It's all organized. I wanted to take time to learn Track, to know it, to feel like I could master it when it comes to reservations, when it comes to revenue, when it comes to trust accounting. Now we have all the reports in the same place. We have really slow months, December, January, February. December, we pretty much had almost $0 in 2023. I got very connected to Track and their wonderful system of customer support. And since then, we literally went from 0 reservations in January and February, just this year, to filling out at 50%. 2024, we had 14,000. The flexibility in the reservation system itself is so awesome. The maintenance is amazing in Track. We can add pictures, we can add links, whatever's going on. The owners have communication from work orders. They have communications, documentation of everything going on, their revenue happening, their taxes. We got all the taxes. That was so fun to take on. And I did my 1099s literally in 3 hours compared to what I usually do. And that was for my vendors too. So it was awesome. Now we feel ready to take off and bring in some wonderful owners that we can really support and help and grow their revenue.
Ready to take your operations to the next level? Get a free market assessment, a $400 value that gives you a clear picture of how your business stacks up against the competition. You'll meet one-on-one with a Track expert who will evaluate your performance in the context of your market, uncover gaps and opportunities, and deliver 3 to 5 actionable insights tailored to your business. This is your chance to find out what's working, what's not, and where you can improve based on real market data. Click the link in the description to get started today.
So I had a question, just thinking back on my property management days. One of the things, this is a great value because it does kind of help the property manager differentiate. However, the challenge is, my question is for you, do you limit the amount of partners, and not, I don't mean attraction partners, but I mean like property manager partners that you have in a market so that every single property management doesn't offer this? I mean, obviously the boat captain is going to sell as many tickets as he can sell. He could care less where they actually come from. But from a property management standpoint, if I'm competing with 17 other management companies that all are offering the same thing, like how do we differentiate ourselves? So how do you guys balance that ability to get people in, within Xplorie and using your system, but then also not oversaturate as to how many partners you have in a market?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and one we get asked frequently, actually, because as we go into new markets or we go into existing markets, it's incredibly important for us to cap how many units we work with. So it varies by market, and we look at how many professionally managed units there are in totality, and then how many companies are those. And then generally per market, we'll have a hard cap, because at the core of it, it is a differentiator, and it's no longer a differentiator if everyone has it. And so we really, and again, it varies per market as to what that is, but it's a small percentage of the total market that we even will allow to exist, and as far as our relationships with them. And so we generally go in and try and find the top property managers that we can partner with. But that's a very non-specific answer to your question, just because there's not a like, hey, we're always at X percentage, because it just depends on the market, depends on how many units there are, how many property managers there are, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but you do take that in consideration. That was my curiosity, that it wasn't just like everybody and anybody, and at some point you've hit like, full capacity for the market, and then nobody's really standing out. So that's a great, I think that's great for partners to know, because I actually wasn't sure how you were going to answer that question.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. My sales team, I think, would love it if we said no limits and they could go sell.
Right.
But no, it's one of the differentiators, and we're not trying to be everything to everybody. We really want to have good partnerships with our clients. And so we spend a lot of time with the individual partners and tailoring their offerings, but also working with them on their marketing and pulling data and looking with them. And so it's not something that scales across the entirety of a market either, because of the depth of that relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure also, I mean, depending on the market, the most popular attractions varies, right? So maybe kind of give us some insights as to what are the most popular ones in, like a Panama City a beach destination versus in the mountain markets like a Gatlinburg, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so I'll take it. I mean, for the Panhandle, for example, again, it varies by season. In July, all the on-water activities are by far the most popular. Sunset, dolphin cruise take the cake. Water parks are right behind it. But come in the shoulder seasons, golf will switch to the most popular, because now it's not as hot. It's a great time of the year to play golf. You go to the mountains in Tennessee, and Dollywood is obviously the most popular. Most people are going there to have Dollywood, but those dinner shows are right up there as the next most popular. But right behind it are the mountain coasters, and the indoor like Ripley's Aquarium attractions, Wonderworks, things like that, that take families. But again, even seasonality on that will change as well as to what they're doing. You can tell when school's back in, you'll have less of the families and more couples. And that'll, and across, all the destinations, it'll change. Horseback riding is very popular out west. And of course, skiing is the most popular in the wintertime and horseback in the summertime out west. And then I'd be remiss not to admit parasailing is extremely popular in all the destinations. So we kind of by market know if you said we're going into a beach market, different categories of activities. Hey, we need to, like the AP team knows, you need to get one of each of this category because you just see that across, even though Myrtle Beach is very different than Destin, what people tend to do as far as on water is the same in both destinations. So kind of those categories is where they will start to go and acquire those activities.
So I have a weird question. Well, I say weird question. It's a question. What is the weirdest activity or the most not maybe an activity that's only available in one specific market that you have?
That's a good question. We get asked by a lot, and then there's some that come that again also don't work, not because it's not a great activity, but to that capacity and volume. But I'm trying to think, some of the haunted tours like in St. Augustine are pretty interesting, or the escape room. Some of them get very interesting with their themes. Some of them a little scary, and some of them, I'm not a clown person, and the amount of clown escape rooms is frightening sometimes. But I don't know the most unique one. Caleb, what would you say would be the most?
Yeah, we really don't have too many niche, I've never heard of that or seen that. The short answer is I think it's probably the stuff you think of when you think of going to these places. And it kind of goes back a little bit to the story about the horse riding thing, is generally the ones that are more niche don't have the capacity that we can comfortably partner with them because they can't support the people that we would send through. So there's kind of this balance of, finding unique things, but also companies that will work well with the volume that's going to come to them. And so, yeah, I can't think of anything. I wish I had some crazy one I could tell you, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I do know I have a favorite. So I've gone on a couple different Xplorie tours that you guys have been so generous, and I've been staying in Gatlinburg to give tickets, but went to Anakista in Gatlinburg, and that was amazing. Like I could stay there all day. It was so much fun.
Did you go to the light show while you were there? I think it's called Astroluma.
I don't know. I know
but Adrienne laughs because every time we go up there, I drag someone else to it. I love it.
Is that the roller coaster, or not roller coaster, but the mountain coaster?
They have it's after park hours when the sun goes down. They have this light experience that's like lasers and fog and music, and it's I don't know.
Oh wow!
I just find it particularly interesting. But Adrienne, she's like,
it is so much fun. I just think it's funny how much Caleb loves it each time. Like we've been in March and froze walking through it. And then we were just there in July and hot and a thunderstorm, still going through it. And it is amazing. But I'm like you, Anakista, I could do something different and spend all day there. And I think it's just amazing what they've done with an activity like that. And that's what I love to see. And it continues to grow, but what each person and family, or even reading some of the different guest reviews that come back, what everyone liked about it is everyone has their one thing that they love about it, and it's all different. So it's nice to be part of in a world that can be so negative and down sometimes. Like I just love sometimes reading through the guest reviews to be like, okay, I might be here in this office looking at spreadsheets, but someone is out there having an amazing time on vacation right now. And that makes it worthwhile going through all of these spreadsheets or whatever mundane task is being done at the time.
I think that applies for property managers too, right? So it's like we get all so fixated on, optimizing things and the stress of guests and technology and everything else. But it's like at the end of the day, like we're creating, whether it's experiences or the accommodations, we're creating incredible memories for these families and travelers that come and stay with us and get to explore the destination. So it's a humbling and definitely a feel good moment when you need it sometimes, but maybe tell us a little bit about, I know one thing that I remember when I've heard about the program that I thought was really interesting was how property managers can use Xplorie to also help a bad situation. So say they get to the rental company and the home isn't ready yet and it was supposed to be or something like that, they can utilize those tickets kind of as a way to soften the blow, so to say.
Yeah, so we have a couple different programs like this, but it's really intended for exactly that. So, a guest checks in and the air conditioner's broken. You can send the party to the zoo or to go do an event while it's being fixed. And it does a couple things. One, it's financially a tool for them to not have to discount rate. And two, it turns what ultimately is a negative situation into a huge positive that they're getting to go do something. And so that's something that all of our partners leverage quite a bit, actually. So there's that. And then we also, obviously, our partners' employees will use it for them and their families as well. So they're able to do that. But it's significantly leveraged when there's guest stays, or a lot of people have, it's an anniversary or it's a special event, and so sometimes the property manager will go and do something above and beyond what is included with the program to really celebrate whatever special occasion it is, and then we support that as well.
I had a question related to like new attractions, and I was just thinking in Panama City Beach, we just had the new Dolly Parton attraction that opened. And I guess so. You guys, well, you have large agreements with these enterprises. Do you get do you get first dibs on access to tickets over like the local market, or I don't know how all that works. Like, obviously, that there's going to be a new attraction coming, just like the market knows. I mean, they're watching it being built, but do they notify you and say like tickets are going to be available X date, and then we're going to give you access to so many of them, and you purchase them, or how does that work out?
Yeah, so it's really variable by. So in that instance, we do have a really good relationship with the group that does that. So we knew long before they announced or broke ground that was coming. They don't necessarily give us access before external people, but in many instances, we're the only third party that they allow to sell their tickets. And it really goes back to kind of the same thing before, is we're not competing with them because we're not trying to sell in a marketplace, because particularly larger attractions, they don't want to consume their own sales. And so in that case, they may come in, like, there's a handful of very large attractions that we're the only people that are reselling it because of our model. But Adrienne, I'm not aware of any that we get. We do, I guess, for dinner shows, like we have obviously amounts held for inventory wise, that standpoint, but not as far as a new attraction opening. I'm not aware of any that were given access prior to people. We definitely know heads up before. And in that one specifically, like, we help them test their API because we're one of the partners that only partners that they do that with. So we do testing with them before they're live even.
And again, you wouldn't want to hold tickets either, because as a resident, just like you living in Panama City Beach, I wouldn't want us holding tickets. We want to be part of, to help, like, hey, how can we help you guys launch this activity? You're launching it in the summertime, which should be ideal and good, but dinner shows are expensive, and you're now coming into a year that everyone's watching every penny. So it's more, let's strategize together. We might be one of the first kind of strategic partners of, hey, what can we do about, getting people to this? Can we introduce you to local people? So as the team was down here, looking and overseeing the construction, the marketing teams, we did introductions to not only people that we knew as Xplorie, but I knew as Adrienne, a resident of the area. And hey, you should go, talk to the PTO at the elementary school, because they're always looking for field trips and group activities. And you have event space here, go talk to this person that handles weddings and big corporate events. And so again, it's just being just a good partner all the way around. So I think we're more thought of, hey, let's go talk to Xplorie as that strategic partner, and what are the different ways they need to be successful in the market. And I don't know that even that one, for example, is worried about summer, but you've got a shoulder season coming around. Like, what do we do in that shoulder season to be creative? Tell me about the market. What do you guys have been here and around and operating? What does your data show you? What can you tell us? And I think that's where, as far as coming to maybe first, is some of the first phone calls that we get to help with that sort of stuff.
And I will emphasize there, so we're not we don't have like batches of tickets that are being held. We're able to book in their system through our integration. So that's an advantage from just bookings. Like you're getting the actual seat, you're getting real-time inventory. So there's not the risk of, hey, my family shows up and I have these vouchers, but I've got to trade them in for this thing over here and they don't have the inventory. That's, an important component for us is to be able to ensure that, hey, when we're holding these tickets, those are actually tickets that are there.
Yeah. What happens when a new attraction comes to town? I mean, in Myrtle Beach, there's always something new every year. Do you guys have your pace on what's going on in the market and reach out to those when they get there?
Yeah, so we have one of our main sales teams is on the activity side, and we both have in market, so people that are there visiting in market, and then a lot of times we'll have lodging partners reach out to us and say, "Hey, we heard this new thing is coming," and so yeah, we will have people that are in market keeping track of those and looking. We really, again, try and be a little bit of a walled garden to say like, "Hey, is this an activity that is going to be a good fit? Is this an activity that's going to be of the quality that we want?" Because we get the number of inbound requests we get both from lodging partners and from activity partners saying, "Hey, we've heard about you. We'd like to work with you." But then we vet them and it's just not a good fit for, a multitude of reasons. But yeah, we definitely have people in market on our activity team that are keeping a pulse on what's going on. And, it's not uncommon for a renovation to come up or something where there's a season that they're not going to be open. So we'll get heads up on that too.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because I mean, as quickly as they come in, they leave too. So you want to make sure you're choosing ones that are going to stand the test of time. Because when you're also going out, you're, getting content for the attractions so that the accommodations can market it and everything else too. So it's definitely an investment of time on Xplorie's part to make sure it's a good fit, not going away. Well, this has been awesome, guys, and just great to hear that things are still going well and that you guys are really, helping companies differentiate. And I think that's going to continue to be the theme. We're going to continue to be closer to 2019 than ever as we continue on. I mean, the alternative is something crazy happens like a pandemic, and none of us want that. So I think we're happy to just be like 2019. But find ways to really be able to get in front of a very crowded marketplace, whether it's your own direct bookings or on the OTAs. So I think Xplorie solves that.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we wanted to touch on is you guys are heading into your 30th year, I believe, next year. So are there any big plans for any celebrations this fall at any of the conferences or starting into the next year?
So I got vetoed by the marketing team. I wanted to go into this conference season like leading up to it, but I was reminded, hey, let's capture that, like, because our anniversary is in January. So let's do it all for 2026.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to kind of roll into 2026, and they're putting a plan together. But, as I told the team, it's like, y'all should take a lot of pride in the fact, any business this day and age, 30 years is an amazing accomplishment. And, just the history. They laughed at me in July. We went up to Charleston for a leadership team meeting. And I brought this basket of stuff, and, because a lot of people are newer within the last, 5 to 7 years. And so I, went back old school the last 20 plus years and was like, hey, here's how we used to do it. Like, you think this is okay now? Here's the papers that used to go in the check-in packages that we had to proofread and print and get them hand delivered to all the clients prior to check-in day so they could stuff all the packages with the keys, and just all the different assets we've used, over the years to facilitate the program. And it caused a lot of good laughs. And, a lot of people would be like, how did you guys do that? Or why would you do that? I'm like, fax machines were a thing, and they faxed an occupancy report.
Yeah, before the internet.
We did it. So yeah, we look forward to celebrating it. And just for the team, because it literally takes a village and a lot of people and a lot of skill sets, and it's not easy every day to do in this industry. I think people take for granted because as a consumer, you like the fun side of going on vacation, and unless you've been on the other side, you can't appreciate what all these lodging providers, the activity providers, all of the vendors, everything that goes into making someone's vacation a great experience. So yeah, we look forward to celebrating that next year.
Yeah, definitely. Well, excited for you guys, and we're excited to see you at the conferences this fall. But if anybody wants to reach out ahead of the conferences and learn more about Xplorie, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
You can reach out to, mine's aclark@xplorie.com, but hello@xplorie.com would be the best way to reach out to us. You can fill out a form online or just go ahead and email us.
Okay, great. Well, if anybody wants to get in touch with Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in, everybody.